The story kicks off with a man named Fateh, India's top intelligence agent, feared by enemies and revered by allies. His reputation is built on an unmatched record, eliminating hundreds of enemy soldiers with his signature move. One shot, one kill. He doesn't need an army. His skills alone are enough to wipe out entire battalions. After completing another mission with cold precision, Fateh walks away, unaffected. But just as he exits the building, an explosion shakes the ground. Nothing is ever as simple as it seems. Cut to the past, Fateh, now retired, has traded his life of violence for one of quiet solitude in a small village. He's left behind the battlefield, finding peace in the simplicity of everyday life. His neighbors, kind and welcoming, offer him the comfort he didn't know he needed. Fateh, content with this new life, sips his tea and reflects on the calm that surrounds him. But old habits die hard. Fateh is now the manager of a local cattle farm, and his meticulous approach to the job reveals his deep care for both the animals and the people who work with him. He knows every worker by name, and he's aware of the struggles they face. During a routine check at the barn, he discovers that two of his workers' children have had to drop out of school due to financial hardship. Without hesitation, Fateh takes matters into his own hands, slipping money into their locker, ensuring they can stay in school and pursue their future. Fateh's quiet life takes an unexpected turn when one of his employees, troubled by a growing debt, visits Nimrod, a local shopkeeper with a reputation for running an online loan app. Desperate for help, the man seeks a solution, but despite Nimrod's comforting words, his anxiety is palpable. As the day wears on, Nimrod can't shake the mounting complaints from the villagers about her business. She tries to reason with herself, but guilt weighs on her. The app, once a tool of convenience, has now become a source of tension. The villagers' whispers haunt her and she fears the worst, being branded a fraud. Across the country, far from Fateh's peaceful farm, the tension escalates. Raza, a ruthless cyber mafia kingpin, keeps a close eye on Sharma, the last surviving member of a white hat hacking group his men massacred. His anger is palpable. He can't stand the disruption they caused in his criminal empire. Without hesitation, Raza orders his men to capture the hacker and make an example of him. Raza's method of execution is chillingly brutal. He straps the hacker into an electric chair, broadcasting the execution live across the internet. As the stream grows in viewership, the voltage increases. The more eyes that watch, the more pain she endures. The online murder video spreads like wildfire, going viral in a matter of hours. The shockwaves ripple through India, leaving a nation gripped by fear and disgust. Raza's message is clear: defy him, and this is the price you pay. As the news of the execution spreads, Nimrod, shaken by what she saw, makes a bold decision. She reaches out to Sharma, secretly contacting her despite the danger. The fear of being watched by Raza's men doesn't stop her. Nimrod knows she must act. Without hesitation, she asks her mother for permission to travel to New Delhi, where Sharma is hiding. Her mother, growing concerned for her safety, urges her to stay focused on her studies and stop causing more worry. But Nimrod simply smiles, knowing what she has to do. Before leaving, she asks her mother to send food to their neighbor, Fateh, unaware that her decision is about to change everything. Later that evening, as Fateh is ironing his clothes, he's surprised by a knock at the door. It's Nimrod, standing there with food in hand. But something's off. Her usual calm demeanor is replaced by a visible tension that doesn't go unnoticed. Fateh, always observant, senses that something isn't right, but Nimrod brushes it off with a faint smile and quickly leaves. The next morning, the village is rocked by a wave of desperation. With debts spiraling out of control, many of the villagers are pushed to the edge. One of Fateh's employees, overwhelmed by his financial burdens, doing the unthinkable, leaving behind his wife and child. Fateh hears the news and is deeply affected, especially since he had often noticed the man's quiet sadness. The loss hits hard, reminding Fateh of the toll that life's struggles take, even on the strongest of people. At the funeral, the weight of guilt is heavy on Nimrod. As she stands silently, watching the man's family mourn, she can't escape the truth. His debts were tied to her loan app, and now his death is on her conscience. Overcome with the burden, she reaches out to Sharma, asking for her help in using her hacking skills to relieve the financial strain on the villagers. Nimrod hopes that, With Sharma's help, they can fix what's gone wrong. But Fateh, ever watchful, notices something off about Nimrod. Her behavior is strange, and his suspicions grow. His instincts are confirmed when the police suddenly show up at her house, prepared to arrest her for fraud. But when they arrive, Nimrod is nowhere to be found. Panic sets in as her mother, frantic and tearful, pleads with Fateh to find her daughter and clear her name. Determined to get to the bottom of this, Fateh begins his investigation. He talks to the villagers about Nimrod's loan business and quickly uncovers that it's not just a small-town issue, it's a dangerous, tangled mess. The truth hits him like a hammer. A cyber mafia is behind the criminal activity, manipulating the system for their own gain. Fateh, convinced that Nimrod isn't the main culprit, knows what he has to do. He leaves the village behind, ready to confront the real enemy and stop the damage from spreading further. For the first time in years, Fateh returns to the city. His purpose is clear: find Nimrod. The bustling streets of New Delhi swallow him up, but his focus is unshakable. Nimrod isn't just a neighbor, she's a friend, like a sister to him. He's always relied on her, and now he's determined to bring her home. Fateh spends the next few days navigating the city's labyrinth, checking in with contacts, asking the right questions, and following every lead, no matter how small. After hours of searching, he checks into a hotel, hoping for a breakthrough. Then, just as his patience is running thin, his phone rings. It's Sharma. Her voice, steady but urgent, tells him she knows where Nimrod is hiding. The next day, Fateh meets Sharma in a quiet corner of the city. What she tells him leaves him stunned. She and Nimrod have been close friends for years, something Fateh never knew. But it gets worse. Sharma reveals that Nimrod had been trying to meet with Kada, a notorious gangster and one of the loan app's enforcers. Fateh's blood runs cold when Sharma adds that Kada has been bribing officials, operating freely, and using his influence to intimidate anyone who gets in his way. With the information from Sharma burning in his mind, Fateh wastes no time. He's determined to find Kada and bring him to justice. He tracks down the gangster's hideout and waits in silent and patient. Hours pass before he finally sees Kada pull up, stepping out of his car with the confidence of a man who's untouchable. Fateh moves quickly, blending into the shadows as he follows Kada into the building. Inside, he's met by the menacing stares of Kada's gang, who quickly close in on him. Fateh stands his ground, his eyes locked on Kada. Without hesitation, he announces, "I'm here for Nimrod." Kada's response is a cruel laugh. He mocks Fateh, unaware of the storm he's about to unleash. But Fateh doesn't flinch. He knows there's no more time for games. In an instant, Fateh moves. He slams the door shut, locking them in. The room fills with tension as his true identity becomes clear. Kada's smug expression falters, but it's too late. Within seconds, Fateh eliminates Kada's entire crew with a swift, precise, and unstoppable. No one stands a chance. Fateh stands over Kada, who is sprawled on the floor, blood pooling beneath him. The once mighty mafia boss is now a broken man, his men wiped out, his power shattered. With trembling hands, Kada pleads for mercy, but his voice is weak and his blood loss is severe. Fateh watches as Kada's plea fades into a final desperate breath. Within moments, the life drains from him, leaving Fateh standing over a lifeless body. Without a word, Fateh kneels, taking Kada's phone. He checks for any valuable information, his mind racing as he scans through the device. Then methodically, he wipes his fingerprints from every surface, ensuring that his presence will leave no trace. The sound of sirens grows louder. Soon the building is surrounded by police. They burst through the door, their eyes widening at the brutal scene. Officers exchange uneasy glances, one of them casually muttering, "Another gang war, probably." But the chief inspector isn't so quick to dismiss it. His eyes narrow as he surveys the carnage. "This is no ordinary bloodbath," he mutters. "This was the work of a professional." He motions for his team to review the CCTV footage. As the video begins to play, a dark realization settles in. The man responsible is no amateur. Elsewhere, Fateh sits in silence, tending to his wounds, as the news blares from the television. Kada's death and the fall of his gang are the top stories, bloodshed that Fateh's hands are stained with. Despite the chaos, his mind remains focused. the battle far from over. Far away in his dark, high-rise office, Raza seethes with anger. Kada's death is a blow to his empire, a betrayal he won't take lightly. He orders his men to meet with Satcha, his most trusted associate, and gives him one directive: clean up the mess. But just as his men leave, Raza's phone buzzes with a new piece of troubling information: the CCTV footage from the crime scene. Fateh's face appears on screen, calm and collected, his presence undeniable. Raza's grip tightens on the phone, his rage simmering beneath the surface. Back in the city, Satcha returns home, weary from his own affairs. He's greeted by Raza's men, but the news they bring is delivered with arrogance and disrespect. Without hesitation, Satcha grabs a pair of chopsticks, his movements smooth and precise. Within moments, the men are dead, swiftly dispatched with nothing more than a flick of his wrist. Meanwhile, Fateh is enjoying a quiet lunch at a nearby cafe, but something feels off. His instincts kick in, and he senses he's being watched. With a cool, collected expression, he stands and approaches the two officers who are keeping a discreet eye on him. With a calm confidence, Fateh explains, "This city is full of cameras. If the footage isn't from the crime scene, it won't hold up in court. But there's something more important. Nimrod is missing, and I need your help to find her." The officers, silent and unyielding, exchange a glance. After a tense beat, they step aside, letting Fateh walk away without a word. Not long after, Satcha picks up his phone, the call cutting through the tense silence of his office. On the other end, Raza's voice is cold, commanding. "You need to find Sharma. This case, it's linked to her. We can't afford to waste time." The weight of Raza's words hangs heavy in the air, and Satcha knows what he has to do. He orders his men to dig into everyone connected to Sharma, including Fateh. As the investigation unfolds, Satcha begins to dig into Fateh's background, but something doesn't add up. Fateh's life seems too ordinary. Satcha can't shake the nagging suspicion that there's more to Fateh than meets the eye, something hidden beneath the surface. What he doesn't know is that Fateh's past is far from ordinary. It's brutal, shadowed by violence and secrets. Determined to act, Satcha gives the order to ambush Fateh. His men move in on the hotel where Fateh is staying, but when they arrive, the room is empty. Fateh has vanished without a trace. Satcha curses under his breath, his frustration mounting. What Satcha doesn't know is that Fateh is always one step ahead. Thanks to Sharma's hacking skills, Fateh learned of Satcha's plans before they even unfolded. Sharma, curious about Fateh's mysterious past, had cracked into Satcha's files, feeding Fateh the information he needed. Fateh, hearing of Satcha's surprise, simply smiles, a flicker of something dark in his eyes. He's not just a man with a past, he's a ghost. Moments later, Fateh leans back, his gaze distant as he begins to unravel the story of his past, a story few have heard. 5 years ago, he was India's most covert and lethal agent that's silent, deadly, and invisible to the world. His mission was critical, a life-or-death mission that would test the limits of his skills. He had been sent to America, charged with retrieving a hard drive containing secrets that could shatter nations. The stakes couldn't have been higher. With a suitcase filled with explosives, Fateh marched into the heart of enemy territory, ready to make his demands known. The gangsters guarding the hard drive were no match for him. With a cold smile, Fateh threatened them with the suitcase: a single wrong move, and everything would explode. Hearing this, fear immediately gripped them, and they complied without question. The hard drive was his, but it wasn't just the information that made him dangerous. It was his mind, always calculating, always steps ahead. As Fateh finishes the story, Sharma listens in awe. She invites him into the safety of her home, a place untouched by Raza's watchful eyes, a sanctuary in the heart of New Delhi. Inside, Sharma reveals a secret room, a hidden space where her hacker group had once gathered. There, the survivors of the group, the ones who had outlasted the storm, look up to Fateh, understanding now why he's been so elusive. With his sharp intelligence and years of experience, Fateh wastes no time. He studies the room, quickly gathering valuable intel on the cyber mafia syndicate. The pieces fall into place. As he pieces together the puzzle, it hits him. This isn't just another criminal network. This syndicate is something far more insidious, an invisible web and unknowingly, everyone, including him, has fallen into its grasp. The next morning, Fateh made a decision that would take him back to a life he had left behind, the life of India's top secret agent, a role buried deep in the shadows of the nation's intelligence network. He knew the only way to stop the cyber mafia was to embrace his old identity, the one the world didn't know existed. With a steely resolve, he boarded a flight to Dubai, prepared for the challenges ahead. After a long, tense journey, Fateh finally arrived and made his way to meet his former superior, the man who had once trusted him with some of the country's most dangerous missions. As Fateh walked into the office, he could already feel the weight of the conversation. His former boss, eyes sharp and calculating, was waiting for him. But the man didn't need to say much. He knew why Fateh had come. "I can't help you anymore," his former boss said, his tone matter-of-fact, yet tinged with regret. Fateh didn't flinch. He had expected this. His past life was no longer his to command, and the country had moved on. But there was one thing he needed: information. Without hesitation, Fateh asked about Satcha. His former superior didn't hesitate either, handing over a complete file on Satcha, detailing everything he knew. But then, in a twist that caught Fateh off guard, he learned something even more surprising. Raza, the man pulling the strings behind the cyber mafia, was no different from him, a former agent, trained in the same brutal ways. Fateh's mind raced as the implications hit him. This wasn't just about stopping a criminal empire. It was about facing someone from his past, someone he once knew. Later that night, Fateh found himself alone with his former boss, the two men sharing a rare moment of silence. Fateh looked him in the eye, his voice steady. "I need permission to carry out this mission, for the sake of national security." His former boss, knowing the dangerous path Fateh was about to walk, only asked one thing in return: stay alive until the end. Fateh's gaze didn't waver. He knew the stakes, and for the first time, he felt the full weight of the mission ahead. On the other hand, Satcha, in the heart of his opulent mansion, sat back while listening to his men report the latest developments. The walls of his lavish home were lined with luxury, but there was an unease in the air. The reports were interrupted when the door slammed open. Fateh stepped in, his presence as commanding as ever. Satcha's eyes widened, questioning how Fateh could found him. Without wasting a breath, Fateh laid bare Satcha's darkest secret. The man had killed his own father. The words hit like a punch, and for a moment Satcha froze. Fateh's ability to uncover such a personal truth sent a chill down his spine. He realized then that this wasn't just an agent or a thug standing before him. It was an expert, someone who could destroy everything he had built with a single move. Fateh's voice was calm, but the weight of his words carried the promise of danger. "Surrender now, Satcha. You have one chance." His words hung in the air, thick with tension. "If you don't, I've already set up dozens of automatic weapon traps around your mansion." Satcha's mind raced, his power slipping through his fingers. Desperation set in, and he tried to negotiate, attempting to find a way out of the corner Fateh had backed him into. But Fateh wasn't interested in deals anymore. He had seen enough of the cybercrimes, enough of the manipulation. The time for talk was over. With a final piercing look, Fateh turned and walked out, leaving Satcha standing there, consumed by the fear of what was to come. Satcha, unaware of the storm brewing around him, thought he could continue his game unchallenged. He made his way to Nimrod, the captive he had kept in his clutches. His mind churned with questions, wondering what was the connection between the girl and Fateh, the relentless agent who had put his empire on the edge. He needed answers. But when he finally faced Nimrod, it was she who struck the hardest blow. With cold defiance, Nimrod looked him in the eye and said, "Beg Fateh for forgiveness. It's the only way you'll survive." Satcha's blood ran cold as her words echoed in his mind. He had underestimated her, and now she had turned the tables. The thought of Fateh's wrath was more terrifying than any criminal he had faced. The next day, Satcha's men arrived at Sharma's house, hunting for her. When Sharma heard them, panic set in. With quick thinking, she slipped into her secret room, hidden from view. But in her haste, a small misplaced step gave her away. The door crashed open and the criminals swarmed in. Just as the tension reached its peak, Fateh appeared like a shadow from the darkness. In seconds, he had neutralized the threat, saving Sharma from certain capture. Sharma, still shaken, looked at Fateh with newfound trust. She realized for the first time that he was more than just a protector. He was a force she could rely on. But their relief was short-lived. Raza, pulling the strings from the shadows, had launched his cruel plan. Without warning, he drained every account linked to his online loan app, emptying the villagers' savings in a blink. The financial fallout was immediate, sparking chaos throughout the village. People screamed in outrage, their livelihoods torn apart by Raza's ruthless scheme. Fateh stood in the midst of the chaos, the frustration of the villagers weighing heavily on him. He had seen their lives upended by Raza's scheme, and now, more than ever, he knew he had to act. He turned to Sharma, urgency in his voice. "We need to stop this. Now, this isn't just about us, it's about everyone." Raza, meanwhile, had already claimed victory in his twisted game. Money flowed effortlessly into his hands, but he wasn't done yet. Fateh was still alive, and that was a problem he needed to fix. Cold and calculating, he gave the order. Make him pay. Satcha, loyal to the end, began to craft a plan. Using AI technology, he created a fake video that painted Fateh as the mastermind behind the crimes, a brilliant stroke of manipulation designed to destroy any trust the villagers might have left in him. But that wasn't enough. Satcha ordered his men to hunt down both Fateh and Sharma, the targets now set in stone. Shortly after, the video went viral, and the police, already on edge, were quick to react. Fateh and Sharma, now branded as the masterminds behind the crime spree, became the most wanted criminals in the country. By afternoon, Fateh and Sharma were on the run, trying desperately to evade the police and the hired killers hot on their trail. But the task grew harder with each passing moment. The entire village had seen the video and believed the lies. Their faces were no longer just those of a hero and a friend. They were now the faces of betrayal. Raza's web of deceit had trapped them, and escape was slipping further out of reach. Fateh's pulse raced as he led Sharma through the chaotic streets, finally getting her out of the danger zone. They made their way to the safe house where Sharma's hacker friends were waiting, ready to infiltrate Raza's heavily fortified system. But as they dug deeper into the network, they hit a wall. Satya's brilliance in layering security around the system was a nightmare. Every attempt to breach it was thwarted, leaving them frustrated and desperate. Just as the tension reached its peak, Fateh's phone rang. It was the head of the police, the man Raza had in his pocket. The officer's voice was cold and commanding. "Surrender, Fateh. You and Satcha have lost. Public opinion is already on our side." The word sent a chill down Fateh's spine, but it was what came next that truly rattled him. The officer informed him that Nimrod was the next victim. Raza had set her up for a live-streamed execution, and it was already happening. Fateh's heart stopped. His mind raced with horror as the streaming video began to spread, going viral in seconds. The entire village, including Nimrod's family, could do nothing but watch in helpless anguish as the unthinkable unfolded. Fateh's eyes were glued to the screen, the agony of seeing Nimrod's death unfold before him too much to bear. Memories of her kindness flooded his mind, the way she had always treated him like family, the warmth she had brought to the village. Now, the girl he had considered a sister was gone forever. Her life snuffed out in front of the world. Grief twisted inside him, but it quickly hardened into something else, a burning desire for justice. Fateh swore to himself, his voice barely a whisper, as he stared at the screen. "I will make them pay. I will dismantle Raza's empire and avenge your death, Nimrod. This ends now." The next day, Fateh's mind was sharp with one purpose: revenge. Armed with the intel on the corrupt police officer's location, he wasted no time. This wasn't just about justice anymore, it was personal. Fateh and Sharma made their way to a hotel, the plan clear: split up in the lobby, infiltrate the compound, and bring the corrupt officer to his knees. Fateh moved like a shadow, slipping past guards, taking them out one by one with surgical precision. His training was flawless, his movements deadly and efficient. He didn't need to waste time. Every step brought him closer to the man who had helped Raza destroy everything Fateh held dear. When Fateh finally reached the officer, he wasted no words. He slammed the officer's hands against the wall, his grip like iron. "Where are Satya and Raza?" he demanded, his voice low and dangerous. The officer's eyes widened in fear, and after a tense moment, he gave up the secret. Satya's hideout location. Fateh's expression hardened. This was it. With no hesitation, Fateh grabbed Sharma and headed for the base. As they approached the compound, Sharma's eyes flickered with doubt. The violence she had witnessed shook her. This wasn't the person she had once known. But Fateh, unwavering, turned to her. "I need you to cover me," he said, his voice steady. "Be the sniper. I'll storm the base." Sharma nodded, still uncertain but trusting him. She positioned herself as Fateh breached the hideout. Inside, chaos erupted. Fateh moved like a machine, dispatching Satya's men with lethal precision, his body a blur of calculated violence. The battle raged on, fierce and relentless. But Fateh didn't flinch. This was the moment he had been waiting for. No mercy, no hesitation. Just the cold, bitter resolve to end it all. After helping Fateh, Sharma slipped into the heart of Satya's compound, the server room. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, hacking into the system with precision. But her success didn't go unnoticed. Satya, watching from his dark corner, felt the breach. Fury exploded within him. He stormed into the room, capturing Sharma in seconds. His eyes burned with malice as he prepared to use her as leverage to weaken Fateh. But Fateh had been in life-or-death situations before. He knew how to stay calm under pressure. Without hesitation, he took his shot, silencing Satya forever. The deadly calm of the moment was broken only by the sound of the shot echoing through the compound. Fateh swiftly moved to free Sharma, pulling her from the chaos. 2 days later, Fateh's phone rang, cutting through the silence of his mission. It was his former superior. "Raza knows you're here," the voice on the other end said, the tension unmistakable. Fateh's jaw tightened. It was time to finish what he'd started. Without a second thought, he moved. A storm of violence erupted as Fateh cut down anyone preparing to surround him. It was a familiar dance, one he had mastered long ago. The scene mirrored his first mission, where an explosion had nearly claimed his life. This time, however, Fateh was the one in control. Elsewhere, one of Raza's men, watching from the shadows, couldn't help but be curious about Fateh. "Who is this man?" he wondered aloud. Raza, his face unreadable, gave a low, cold chuckle. "Fateh, trying to uncover his past is like chasing death itself. He's a mystery, and those who try to solve it don't live to tell the tale." Raza's words hung in the air as if Fateh were more than a man. He was a storm that was about to consume everything in its path. Even after the explosion, Fateh refused to stay down. His body was covered in wounds, the pain sharp and relentless, but nothing could stop him. Each step forward was a testament to his willpower. He was a man on a mission, and nothing would stand in his way. His thirst for vengeance burned brighter than the pain searing through him. Raza, watching from the shadows, was stunned. One by one, Fateh took down his men with cold efficiency, his skills as lethal as ever. Cornered, Raza's confidence faltered. Desperation crept into his voice as he tried to negotiate, offering Fateh an alliance. "We're both products of the same system," he said. "We could work together. There's profit in this for both of us." But Fateh wasn't swayed by Raza's words. He had heard enough. Without hesitation, he ended Raza's life, his resolve as unyielding as ever. With Raza's death, the grip of the cyber mafia syndicate was finally broken. Fateh had exacted his revenge, dismantling the criminal empire that had threatened his country. As the dust settled, Fateh returned to the life he had left behind, the quiet life of a cattle farmer in the village. He had found his peace, and with Sharma by his side, he knew the future could finally be built on hope. Fateh invited her to live with him, to start a family. His voice, soft with sincerity, spoke of dreams for the future, of children and a life of simplicity, away from the chaos of the world. And with that, the story came to a close. So the moral of the story is, if you're ever a world-class secret agent, make sure to retire as a peaceful cattle farmer, because nothing says relaxing life like finding kids' school money in your locker. Also, if you're in charge of a loan app, maybe don't let it turn into a national crisis, unless you're cool with a bunch of explosions and betrayal.